Because if you've got Starlink and if you've got 5G and if you've got GMDSS compliancy, how do you manage this stuff on board? So we've developed a system called eHub, which means that you can bond stuff together.
This is the Ben Taylor Podcast, the home of marine industry insights. Enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ben Taylor Podcast. This one is a collaboration with the Superyacht Services Guide, a very trusted directory by a lot of senior crew and captains on board a lot of large yachts around the world, and one of which we're on board right now, which is a beautiful sailing yacht. And today I'm here with Hamish. So nice to see you, Hamish.
Nice to meet you, Ben.
So tell me a little bit about E3. What's your speciality? What do you do?
So we are a integrator of all the various different communication systems that yachts need at sea. And that really goes from weather to safety, to GMDSS compliancy, to usable internet. And I think what's changed, certainly in the last few years, with the advent of low Earth orbit constellations and specifically Starlink, is that you really are now on a yacht almost anywhere in the world, certainly where Starlink is authorized, you're as connected as you would be in your office or your home.
Yeah, I suppose that sets some pretty difficult expectations as well.
It's a game changer. Yeah. Well, it does, and there's good and bad about it, because I think, I've certainly spoken to, when it first was being used heavily, so now we're talking a couple of years ago, and yachts were returning from the Caribbean. Historically, you would sail out of St. Martin or Antigua or whatever, and you'd lose 4G in 12 miles or so, and then the crew would start talking to each other and get out the Trivial Pursuits or the Monopoly set. And actually, speaking to skippers coming back a couple of years ago, they were saying, well, now that you're so connected,
it continues whilst you're at sea as well.
Goes off into their cabin and watches YouTube or whatever, because it's super quick. Historically, offshore VSAT connectivity, I won't get too technical, but was around, you're paying good money for a sort of 4 or 6 megabyte download.
Right, okay, so paying top dollar for a kind of mediocre service. This is now evolved a little bit.
With very heavy hardware related to it. And now you're easily seeing speeds of over 300 megabytes per second.
Wow.
And you're paying, it's data allowance packaging now rather than unlimited at a slow speed. You're paying little money for quite generous data allowances, 1 terabyte a month or 5 terabytes a month, which is way more than anyone ever would use historically. But now is becoming quite typical, because data is the new oil, really. Everything runs on data.
I like that. Data's the new oil.
It is a bit.
With this all happening, I feel like people will jump to, well, we have a Starlink on board, so our connectivity is all just fine, done. It's like a one solution solves all. I believe that's not entirely true.
All your eggs are in one basket if you do that. And if your Starlink goes down, what else have you got?
Right, so you look at reliability, and maybe that needs to work, and it's being robust.
One big difference with Starlink is that it's a best effort service, although that best effort is way up there.
It's a good effort, but it's not a guarantee.
Very good effort, but it's not a guaranteed. So you have a thing called historically we've had committed information rate, which is the contractual download speed that a provider is obliged to give you.
Right, it's like a minimum service.
Minimum service, and a maximum information rate, which is the most you're going to get. And with Starlink, the MIR, the maximum information rate, is up in the sort of 400 to 500s.
Okay.
But the committed information rate is 0. So if you get a nothing burger, you've got no one to complain to. And that's one aspect of it that yachts need to take into account. But also, what do you have to back it up? At the moment, there's new low Earth orbit constellations being launched. Amazon Kuiper is still a couple of years down the road. You've got OneWeb on either Kymeta or Intellian hardware, and that is way more comparable to Starlink in terms of speed and cost than it would be to historical VSAT, but it's still not at the same level as Starlink. So Starlink is the thing.
It's the first mover, it's the thing at the minute, but actually competition is coming. There are other solutions catching up and really giving the run for the money.
And again, it's interesting, if you look at Tesla in an analogous way, Tesla and Musk is an interesting character, or Tesla has competition and so he can't go too crazy.
Right, and this is absolutely true for Starlink as well.
Well, it doesn't really have competition at the moment. It will do down the road, but it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't yet, but it will do down the road for sure.
Okay.
So the world's changing, but the idea which has changed, I think, probably more fundamentally than anything else, is that you are now wherever you are. You know, in the middle of the Pacific, you are as connected as you are. In your home,
that's very different to previously,
So it's difficult to get remote on a sailing yacht. If you have this, obviously you can choose not to have it and get remote on a sailing yacht. But if you have it, it's there, it's usable. You know.
Okay, so it has its positives for like a service point of view and a safety point of view, but actually it also impacts the dynamic on board. There's something great about being slightly more isolated than you normally are in your home or something.
How crucially important it is. Obviously, from a weather and safety perspective, being connected out at sea is critical. But I often wonder that people should look out the window more. You know, that's the world we live in. We're uploading and downloading stuff all the time. You see anyone walking around the Palma Yacht Show, and they're either looking at a boat or they're looking at their phone. They're probably so there you go.
So specifically around E3, you've got a lot of quite amazing relationships and team members and things, and there's been some recent things that have happened. So can you just kind of profile the E3 team? What's going on?
The company was founded in 1996. So 30 years.
Correct. I've got it here.
There you go.
I just read it. I just said it.
30 years in February next year. That will be 30. So we're well established here, and although we've got offices in France and we've got associate companies. We did have offices in America. We've had offices in Malta, but actually our base is here. And because we've been in the business for so long and we have so many associations going on with companies that are on site that it makes sense to HQ ourselves here. And we do have engineers traveling from here to everywhere. But if we need to use people locally, we know who they are and we know that we can trust them. And that works as well.
Right. So from a logistical point of view, you do have the ability to support a yacht no matter what geography they're in. And also have that local resource expertise and people nearby that you can tap into.
A lot of yachts, there's methodology to support yachts remotely. So we can often tell a yacht that an access point in a cabin has gone down before they're actually even aware of it. Because we can see it. We've got in our support operations center, we can see exactly what's going on with the yachts to whom
that's really cool.
Who have taken on the remote support options that we can provide.
And you've I suppose not quite tapped on it, but we need to talk about cybersecurity.
Which is again with all this amazing connectivity, cybersecurity is white collar crime.
Challenges.
If you want to call it that, is people are doing things online.
It's real. It's happening. Like it's quite a danger.
Much more effective than blowing up a bank vault and diving into it, so that's where there's a real threat from that, and this connectivity does expose people to those threats. So we've associated with a UK company called Riella, and we've got a link that they can send out. We can send it out to a yacht, and they can fill in a questionnaire and answer a series of basic questions, and it gives them an outline of how secure their yacht is and how they manage certain things. Passwords, all these different things. It's scary to sit down and speak to them and hear case studies of what people have managed to do in accessing boats.
Right, and very quickly that boat can then understand how vulnerable are they. And then you go, oh wow, there are a lot of access points on board, and it's quite vulnerable.
And so it's a more and more, or it's commensurately linked to connectivity. If you're not connected, they can't do it.
Right.
If you are, they can one way or another.
So it's like a complementary service, works well together.
It does work well. I mean, it's not. It's an IMO required compliancy thing coming up, but it's something that yachts should do anyway. I mean, to have a good fire,
just to operate really responsibly and actually to have a decent cybersecurity policy.
It's a big deal. They're very, very clever. And again, we've got amazing firewalls at work, but we get phishing emails all the time. They never get through, but we get them all the time. And we stop them.
It kind of changes the perspective to like everyone's already always under attack.
They're incredibly
and they're
clever.
Already trying.
They're very clever at accessing stuff, and they can look very, very genuine. And you've again if you're not sure if you're expecting to receive an email from somebody, check out the address that it's come from.
Read really carefully
before you do. Certainly think before you divulge any sort of information that you wouldn't want other people to have.
It's kind of being savvy. Like this is step one.
And it applies to us however we run our lives. It applies to us personally as well. There's no question of that. But it's certainly a case with yachts, because that's where lots of money happens to sit.
It's a heck of an incentive
time,
for them to get involved in the malicious activities. And E3 does quite a bit around charity as well.
We do.
So it's always
we always have.
I love to see this link, because the in the yachting industry, people kind of it's extravagance, is yachting. Like what on earth are they going to do in charity? There's actually quite a few initiatives.
I think that there's a lot of initiatives here, and E3 have always been very involved in that. Roger Horner, who founded the company with Jason Abbott and Alan Walker back in 1996, very keen, as are many other people in this industry sector, to give back to, particularly to the local community. I mean, the industry here is so important anyway. It employs a lot of people, brings a lot of money specifically into this island. But Mallorca, like anywhere, has a poverty level as well. So it's not all huge yachts floating around the place. There's real genuine problems here. There's a great initiative called Yachting Gives Back, organised, headquartered here, and we've worked with them on cycling events. So we'll invite a whole load of captains, engineers, crew, agents, owners, reps, project managers, and they'll all come out riding with us. And put money in the pot, and that goes into local initiatives. And Yachting Gives Back directs where that should go, because they've got a handle on where it's needed most.
Right, local partners will say, hey, here's a bit of money, but we now know where it's going to go, how it's going to be used.
I think it's always good,
and the benefits of it.
With any kind of event like that. And we've raised over 20 grand doing that in the last few years. And it's always nice for the people taking part who've chucked 50 euros in the pot and have had a lovely breakfast and a great event and a big lunch afterwards, to know that what they put in the pot, where it went,
it's a bit of a feel good, bit good for them, a bit of money to charity, like Happy Days.
One event we provided fresh meat for a food kitchen in Palma for 6 weeks, enough meat for 6 weeks that to feed people in a food shelter in Palma, which is fantastic. And I think again, E3 has always been part of that community that has contributed to.
And it improves the image of yachting as well, because there's definitely this thing about, like, people see a large yacht and go,
they do.
It's all the best image that we have to the wider population. But things like this, it's something that's real, and it's taking place, and the
industry is energetic about it, and I think it's very important that they are. So as well as contributing to local causes, and cycling, actually. I mean, cycling is a massive thing on this island, but there's a lot of cycling activity here. I'm involved in other things in that respect, and all of it is for it's a big expat community, but they're not short-term expats. They're people who've made their lives here, and they're contributing to where they live and the issues that exist here. I say it all looks very glamorous, but there are issues that, as I said, that exist here.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's wrap up with a bit of a vision looking forward. So for E3, what's coming next? What's being worked on, or what's exciting?
Exciting is, there's been this revolution in the last few years, driven mostly by Starlink.
Right.
That's the big, again.
That's the disruption.
Analogously with Tesla. Tesla was the first electric car, and it isn't the last. And Starlink is the first commercially launched low Earth orbit connectivity platform,
and it's not
going to be the last. And competition is great, because it drives things.
It's better for the market.
Usually,
it's more healthy.
It's usually in the end user, the customer, is the person that benefits ultimately from competition. So that's interesting. I think the advent of, again, what a lot of this stuff has done is, particularly Starlink and the hardware, which is so tiny compared to big stabilized antennas sitting either on the masts of motor yachts or on the first spreader of sailing yachts. This hardware has shrunk. The performance has gone up.
You were
massively.
saying before, from these big domes, they've gone into like this size thing.
This is a Starlink Mini, which is, and we've been getting 200 megabytes off this today, just on our stand here at the yacht show. It's opened up the opportunity then to take big heavy kit off vessels like these big domes, get them off. It cleans up rigs, particularly high-performance sailing yachts. They don't really like that stuff high
I'm
up
sure,
on the rig anyway.
All that.
The television scene is changing. So we're now authorized distributors for SkyStream as an IPTV solution rather than as a satellite footprint Sky offshore solution. So if you've got high-performing internet connectivity, whether that's on 5G or whether that's on Starlink or whatever, then it's not geographically limited. You can watch Formula One in English, in the Caribbean, in real time.
Right, okay, with you.
Yeah,
right.
So it opens up all these things. Whereas, with your TVRO, if you're in the Caribbean,
to be local language or something.
You're on Direct TV, or if you're in the UK, if you're in Europe, you're on Sky UK or Sky Italia, because Sky UK runs out on 1 meter antennas. It runs out not much further than the south of France. So you're then watching Formula One in Italian, which you don't. Not everyone wants to do. There you go. And that then also allows vessels to take heavy television receive only or TVROs antennas off their yachts, and you clean it all up. It's got. But I remember I got my first mobile phone in 1987, and it was a suitcase with one of those old dialing things.
Yeah,
and it ran out in about half an hour, and a wired handset. And now, phones are the size that they want them to be, but phones got absolutely minute for a period of time before everyone realised it's actually kind of annoying.
Small is not necessarily better.
We don't need it that small. So it's a very changing scene. But E3 as a company, we're doing. We've been here for 30 years. Companies come and go.
Yeah,
we're very established. It's tough, and we did a lot of firsts. We were the first company to open up an internet cafe in Mallorca. We were the first people to put a VSAT dome on a yacht. We were the first company to put the flat panel Chimera antenna on yachts. So we got a lot of firsts, and we're so we've been here for a while, but we have to keep moving with the market and the technology, particularly the technology. So we've got a big team of electronics and IT engineers who are seeing what's coming along. Yeah. All this stuff as well, again, cybersecurity comes into it. So how do you manage that? And also how do you actually manage the network? Because if you've got Starlink and if you've got 5G and if you've got GMDSS compliance, how do you manage this stuff on board? So we've developed a system called eHub, which means that you can bond stuff together, or you can segregate owners and guests and captain and crew, so owners and guests can be on a more powerful connection.
Right, okay, yeah.
Or the crew can be, when you're inshore, the crew can be on a cheaper, possibly 4G solution on local 4G connectivity or something like that. So all these things are very manageable. And our job is to, as an integrator, is to make that whole process a single source of provision, but a single source of support, a single source of billing, able to contact us 24/7.
Frictionless,
and it's just
top
making
service.
It easy. Captains and engineers,
mobility as well. Yeah,
they have plenty to do. And for us to make that element of
reduce the workload, give them the support as well as all the equipment and things like that. That's the way.
It's critical. And this stuff always happens at 11 o'clock on a Friday night.
The worst time possible in the worst location possible.
They've got an upset, and it's not necessarily they're upset because they're being pompous like that. They might have some, they'll have
really
some
quite
really
stressful
important stuff going on.
Yeah.
An owner or a guest, and if they can't connect, it's not good news. It's really, really bad news. So it's very, very important to have a stable, solid connectivity platform, and that's what we as a company provide: is stable, solid connectivity platforms.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for your insights.
My pleasure.
I've learned a lot.
It's nice and good. Nice to see you, Ben. Well, nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, that's another episode of the Ben Taylor podcast. This has been a collaboration with the Super Yacht Services Guide, a trusted directory for senior crew and yacht captains all around the world. All being well, we'll see you again at the next episode. That is all for now. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ben Taylor podcast, the home of marine industry insights. We'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.